Holy smokes, breaking news. House NCAA settlement has been approved by Judge Wilkin. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this rebel outpost, the home for college football sickos. With a donation, help us keep the lights on. Just hit that $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend on this legendary night. Do not be afraid with your comments and with your phone calls. I'm very humbled that we've got 60 people joining us here tonight, June 6, 2025, our second live show of today. Again, you got to make sure to keep your head on a swivel. You've got to subscribe to our channel, and you got to turn on those notifications. And it helps if you follow us at Flug Empire. Okay, what does this all mean? It means a lot. It means a whole heck of a lot. Not because the House settlement is going to work, because it's not. It's not going to work on its own. It's going to get destroyed. But it's important, because now that this has finally been approved, it's time. I can't believe I'm saying this. I cannot believe I'm holding out hope for our government, for our Congress, to actually do something, to get together across party lines. I cannot believe what a sucker I am. But that is the position that I am in tonight. I think it's a position that we're all in tonight. Because if this goes pear-shaped, and it will. If this goes pear-shaped, God help us all. Because it's only going to get worse. Hopefully this spurns. This gets Booker and Cruz, those 5 senators, and who get this done. It ain't perfect. This ain't even close to perfect. And again, just like the 4-4-2-2-1 model, I don't like the permanency of this, even if it gets codified. These rules, giving somebody, the sports commission, the authority to enforce the rules. Deloitte, giving them the ability. Giving everybody the ability to make rules. If this doesn't get codified, this thing is going to go bad to worse, because this settlement's going to get ripped up, and there's going to be more loss, and we're heading, in my opinion, you let me know if I'm wrong, but we're heading into bankruptcy, baby. Bankruptcy across the country eventually. This is a big, big night, because truly it's like step 1. This was the easy one, and it took decades to get here, because the leadership of the presidents, all the schools that you all represent, they built this NCAA. It did not have legitimacy in the court. They were not giving compensation to the workers, to the laborers of college sports. The courts, the Alford case, the NCAA has been ripped to shreds. The Supreme Court have given a little bit of light, a pathway. They say, you know what, the NCAA has no legitimacy. Judge Kavanaugh said that, but maybe the conferences do. So the conferences have gotten together. They've been creating for months the Sports Commission, which we're going to be, the phrase Sports Commission is going to be said so many times on this YouTube channel, on every college football, the Sports Commission. The Sports Commission is investigating the University of Minnesota. The Sports Commission. The Deloitte Clearinghouse. Okay. Opie, geesh, I just started watching the Mafia show, and now this comes across. Let the real games begin now. Thank you so much for the incredible support, the incredible super chat, OPD Don. thank you so much. Coming on live for the second time. We are going to go late into the night. The little general has gone to sleep. So we're not going to have a moderator. Everybody act cool in the chat room. We do not have a moderator. A plane has landed to Mazda. My prof, my head just swiveled. Jeff Morgan, Mr. Flugar, we are back. Again, this in itself solves nothing. Nothing. Except we're going to go on for the next few days to pretend that we have solved something. Right? I mean, the Deloitte clearinghouse is supposed to be up and running 3 days after this got approved. So is that Monday or is that Wednesday? Okay, let's say it's Wednesday. Let's eliminate the Wednesday. Go Black 45. Go Black 45. If you sign a name, image, and likeness deal with your LSU Tigers on Wednesday, Go Black 45, that has to be submitted to the Deloitte Clearinghouse, and it's going to be approved or denied. At least how we think it's going to happen. And by the way, this triggers so many other things. The first plane has landed. There was no way that some bigger issues were not going to happen with this hanging over everybody. There are so many examples of that. One, a mystery to all of us. No matter how much poking and prodding I've been doing, the mystery of private equity. Because now private equity is looking at a world, especially if this thing can get codified, but they're looking at a world, they can do some valuations. They know labor is going to get paid 22% of blah, 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 whatever that math turns out to be, that algorithm. They know what labor is going to get paid. They know there's going to be rules. So private equity now, maybe we start, the first one breaks on through. Maybe in the AAC. Maybe in the Big Ten. Maybe whatever's going on in Big 12 ACC country. Together, some of them apart, I don't know. But the first plane, the big one, has landed. There is going to be a bill in the House, I believe. And it's going to be next Thursday. There's going to be some committee on it. Hopefully I can carry a live stream on that. But Thursday, there's going to be people at Capitol Hill, a bill, and it basically is going to go through and what I believe is a first step to try to say, okay, this is the House, it's approved, and now we're going to try to give this body here the ability to make eligibility rules, to govern on all of these issues. Let's go. Sasha, I don't know if you don't like how I talk, this is not the show for you. I remember you, Shasha. I almost kicked you out of the chat room a couple months ago. Okay, this is a big night of college football, college sports. I'm going to talk how I talk. This old fat guy from Minnesota with a big thick accent, it ain't going to get any better than this. The plane has landed. The plane has landed. No, I don't have you confused. Trust me. The moderator keeps the list. The moderator keeps the list, and you are on it. Okay. Let's see here. Opie for president. Absolutely. Okay, let's get to the breaking news. Let's get to the breaking news. What I'm going to do first is Chris Vanini with the House settlement. FBS football rosters will drop to 105 player limit, but all can be on scholarship, no more 85 limit. Okay? Now you can go over the 85 limit on scholarships, but schools are not expected to use all 105 scholarships and will have walk-ons. Players who would have been cut can be grandfathered in for the rest of their careers. That just gives you a quick oversight of what is in the settlement. Now, we've been talking about what's been in the settlement. We are going to open up the phone lines here pretty quick. Okay? We are going to open them up pretty quick. Let me go to the CBS report that just came out about 25 minutes ago. How college athletes will be paid after the House versus NCAA settlement, the NIL changes, enforcement contracts, and more. So once we get through this article, I'm going to open up the phone lines. I'm going to keep an eye on more reporting. Give me your call, 763-260-1333. The lines are not open yet. Players will be able to receive direct payment from schools for the first time. But how will this all work? The House versus NCAA settlement was officially ratified Friday. Universities can directly pay the athletes in 2025. This settlement marks one of the greatest shifts in the history of college athletics by paving the way for formalized pay-for-play for the first time ever. So how will the players be paid? And what impact will this have on the structure of college football heading forward? Starting in 2025, colleges will be able to opt into revenue sharing with athletes. Athletic departments will be allowed to use their own funds to pay players, with a cap expected to hover around $20 million annually per school. That figure is intended to cover all athlete compensation across varsity sports, not just those that generate revenue. So it ain't going to be a $20 million rev share for your football roster. It could be 14, it could be 15, it could be 12 million. That's up to your athletic department. That is up to your athletic director, or that is up to your general manager. The number represents approximately 22% of average athletic department revenues across the Power Conference athletic departments. So as you can see, when the athletic departments make more and more money every year, 22% of the average, that rev share number is going to bounce upwards. Right now it's at $20.5 million. The settlement estimates that the total cap will start at around $20.5 million per school and could rise to nearly $33 million per school in the next decade. Between the revenue sharing, the scholarships, and other athletic benefits, it is believed that the compensation to athletes could push close to 50% of athletic revenue in many athletic departments. It is expected that around 15 million, if you are able to do the $20.5 million rev share to your student athletes, is expected that 70% of that, somewhat 70%, 15 million of that will go to football at the Power Conference schools. However, individual schools have the discretion to allocate funds as they choose. Kentucky, UConn could decide to spend 50% of their budget on men's basketball. Non-football schools and conferences like the Big East could gain a major advantage when funding other programs. This is a big one. It remains unclear. How Title IX will factor into the model, though at least some funds will likely be directed toward women's sports. Which schools will be eligible? The schools that opted into the House settlement. They're the ones that will allow to be participant in revenue sharing, regardless of level or funding. So if you've opted in this settlement, if you're going to be paying the back pay on this settlement, this class action settlement with all those student athletes, you can do rev share, and you don't have to do the 20.5 million. Schools in the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC have all confirmed that they will pay out the full 20 million rev share each season. The AAC is notably requiring schools to rev share 10 million with their athletes over the next 3 years. Sacramento State, an FCS school hoping to transition to FBS, also intends to share revenue. Who will administer the new sport? In the wake of the settlement, Power 4 conferences will take over regulation and enforcement of player compensation issues. So it's the Big 12, it's the ACC, it's the SEC, it's the Big 10, and they have been meeting for months. This has been going on for months. The creation of the Sports Commission, everybody's got their hands in this thing. They plan to create a new organization called the College Sports Commission and will hire a CEO soon after the settlement. And tonight, the name of that CEO has been published. I don't remember the name, but we're going to have to go find it again. But somebody, or if somebody can put it in the chat, that would be great. An MLB, Major League Baseball official, the CEO of the College Sports Commission. Power Conference schools will be pressured to sign onto the new organization or risk expulsion from their conferences. The College Sports Commission, the CSC, will be in charge of enforcing the upcoming salary cap and working with Deloitte to create the NIL clearinghouse. Additionally, they will police and enforce punishments for those circumventing the salary cap or improper athlete compensation. Can players still sign school NIL contracts? The new agreement will allow players to sign outside contracts. However, a new wrinkle requires NIL contracts to be sent through a clearinghouse run by Deloitte to ensure, quote unquote, fair market value based on actual endorsement. For example, a rotation offensive lineman could potentially make six figures in the NIL era. While they will still be allowed to do that with a revenue sharing contract, future NIL contracts are expected to be far more stringent. Additionally, the NCAA has the right to prohibit NIL compensation from a group it classifies as associated entities or individuals, which would seem to mean boosters. The right to prohibit NIL compensation from boosters. Take a player like Cooper Flagg at Duke. His brand value would be considered high for Duke, which could allow the school to pay him for an endorsement without pulling from their revenue sharing money. Notably, Texas coach Steve Sarkisian claimed Quinn Ewers did not take any money from their collective, instead signing endorsement contracts to claim his millions. Per reports, Deloitte told ACC officials that 90% of existing NIL contracts with public companies would have been approved. More than 70% of the deals with booster collectives would have been denied. So, I think Deloitte is letting everybody know. You sign an NIL contract with a public company, the chances of it getting approved goes up greatly. You sign some sort of deal with a booster collective, the chances that the deal will be denied will go up greatly. The rule is intended to prevent schools from using fake NIL deals, which are pay-to-play deals. Okay, let's get through this. I want to get to your phone calls. What will happen to the collectives? There's no one consensus answer on the future of collectives. Every school will handle them differently. Some will sunset their collectives and move all operations in-house. There's a lot of schools that have already done that. Others will use third-party collectives as a support tool for services like connecting athletes with outside endorsements or financial education. Will the rev share contracts be binding? The short answer is no one knows. Arkansas became the first school to publicly hire an attorney to enforce conditions on an NIL contract. Earlier this offseason, Wisconsin lost defensive back Xavier Lucas to Miami and similarly claimed that he was flaunting a 2-year binding revenue sharing contract with the school. At this point, no formal legal challenge has been filed, and Lucas is now on the roster at Miami. The binding nature of the contracts could be a key complication still remaining for the pay-for-play era. It could soon be addressed by the courts. Is this the end? Even though the House NCAA settlement is coming down, it doesn't solve the biggest remaining questions around contracts, athlete movement, eligibility, NCAA enforcement power, or a plethora of other issues. Key athletic leadership has consistently gone to Washington, D.C. to lobby for federal legislation. That's it, guys. We've been covering this for months, but I could not go to your phone call before we laid it out in front of everybody once again. What do you guys think? Do you think this is going to get codified? If it does get codified, could this spurn, at least in college football, this is a college football YouTube channel, could this spurn more competition, a more equal balance across the country? Everybody's spending on rev share. And Deloitte, supposedly, the NIL deals have to be legit. Could this spurn some programs to really shoot up? I mean, some programs have a lot of connections to public companies. That NIL deal might be those big old companies. If they get a relationship going with the school, we could see changes. Now, we've already seen some changes, right? There are some schools out there that are just rolling in NIL. Could some of them be affected by the Deloitte clearinghouse? The ones that really rely on the big boosters and not the big companies? Or is it going to be more of the same? The rev share. Is your school, is it going to be doling out $15 million to your football program? A lot of your schools have a very successful basketball program, possibly a successful women's program. A school like mine, the University of Minnesota, some of that rev share has to be put into the men's hockey program. Every dollar that goes to the men's hockey program ain't going to the football program. Let me know what you think about all this. Does this get codified at the end of the day? And that has to happen pretty soon. The lawsuits are coming. We all know that. It ain't going to be big breaking news when the lawsuits come. This thing could get shredded to pieces before the football season even starts. Although it takes a while for these court cases to get going. Congress, are you ready to act? Are you ready to do something? Next Thursday, there's a House meeting, a committee going on. We are going to follow that story. Let me get to some of your comments here. And then we're going to get to your phone calls. I appreciate everybody joining us. I really do. There was no way that we were not going to do a live show when the news broke. Now, I couldn't get to it right away. I was busy, but we got here. We're doing the live show. I said earlier today, I was told that when this breaks, it's going to break on a Friday. I was told that. I told you guys that in the live show that watched it. But I didn't think it was going to be this Friday because it was already late in the day, and here we are, June 6th, late Friday evening. Heartbreak 25, paying respect to PATC After Dark. I personally appreciate how dedicated you are to the small but mighty community. Thank you so much. It is small. It is mighty. It's a very small national college football YouTube channel. But the action that happens because of you guys in the chat room and your donations and the phone calls, it is a mighty community. Great word for it. Thank you so much. Spending money to say, hey, it ain't me, Greg. Somebody's damaging my good name. Gotta be another Sasha. I will take a look at it. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity. I will take another look at it. Maybe it's my bad. Maybe it's my bad. Okay, let's see. I really do want to get to the phone calls. Not necessarily. CFB Plus. So essentially, Oregon will have unlimited funding and use Nike as their company to pay and highlight the athletes. Again, they're going to look at these deals, and I think if the number is too outrageous, sorry guys, but most of these 17, 18-year-old people coming in don't have a name, don't have a lot of value in name, image, and likeness. They don't. The top players do. You know, they get a lot of buzz coming out of high school. They're in the Elite 11 quarterbacks, you know, camps and stuff. You got your 5-star players. Yes. Some of that locally name, image, and likeness, that value. But if it's going to be run like I think it's going to be run, I don't think Nike's going to be able to say this player is worth $300,000, this player is worth $500,000. I don't think, and I don't think Deloitte is going to approve those type of deals unless you're a top player. This Deloitte clearinghouse, the reality is, now I might get in trouble with a lot of you when I say this, but it ain't going to negatively affect most of the student athletes. Number one, the Deloitte clearinghouse could potentially negatively affect the top players in college football because they were getting these big old deals that were pay for play. That was number two. Number three, and I want everybody to consider this, because of rev share, because of the $20.5 million direct payments from the schools to the student athletes in a variety of sports, mostly football and men's basketball, most student athletes, especially in the revenue sports, are going to be compensated more in 2025 than they have ever been. So for most student athletes, this is all more of a benefit to them. Having said that, I understand, I would agree that none of this is as good as a collective bargain, an agreement, a CBA between labor and the owners, which would be the conference in the schools. So it's not perfect. It's not close to perfect. But I'm also not going to sit here and say that most student athletes are going to be compensated more than ever. And one more thing, and then I'm going to get to your phone calls. We just saw more reports that the UFL going into the tank, lost 22. They don't make money. It is impossible to create a professional football league with 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old players. When we're talking, I shouldn't go down this rabbit hole, but if you competed against college football, and any billionaire that's watching this program, any lawyer, go ahead, compete. Pay the players what you think they can play, do a collective bargaining agreement, and compete for college football. You're not going to make money. You're going to be out of business. A lot of these players, God love them. I'm glad they're playing college football. I love it. But a lot of them are getting paid above their true market value, to be honest. But I think they've earned it because they've been working hard their whole lives. I think they've earned it. They're risking their health out there. But what I'm talking about fair market value is if you were building something from the ground up, you would get absolutely people have been losing money on professional football for decades, and they will continue to lose money. The NFL, a moneymaker. And now college football, the money that they've been making, finally is going to the labor. And that's how it should have been for decades. So it's a victory in some ways tonight. But it's bittersweet because there are better ways to do this. And none of this is going to work without it being codified, without the state All these state NIL laws, they got to be superseded by a federal law. There's got to be some antitrust exemption for the governing body to be able to make some rules, put some guardrails in, enforcement, so we can watch college football, the game that we love, the history, the pageantry, the drama. Oh, and guess what? The competition. Because this could all spurn more competition. I think we've already seen some of that a little bit, right? I think we've seen a little bit of spreading out of the talent in college football. Just this year, there have been more teams that have been able to, more programs that have been able to keep their studs, keep their dudes, instead of them getting picked off by the bigger schools, the bigger brands, because now that they can pay their top athletes some scratch, I think we're starting to see a little bit more competition in college football. Okay, let me set this up here. I don't even have the phone lines going on. I don't even have that set up. Give me a moment, everybody. Hold on. Love the show, Greg. Buy a cheese curd or two. Thank you, Finally Tuned. Thank you for your incredible generosity. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I got no problems with cheese curds. No problem with cheese curds at all. Thank you, Finally Tuned. Thank you for all your support. Opie, thank you so very much. Wow. Big start. Here we go. We're going to open up these phone lines right now. Let's get this going. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. Uh-oh. Okay, we got more breaking news. Thank you, R. Webb. I'm really getting behind here. Phone lines are open. Give us a call. We got breaking news. Christy Dosh, Sports Biz Miss, who does an excellent job at covering all these types of issues. Most important thing I spotted on the new website. Christy Dosh at the CS Commission, College Sports Commission. NIL deals over $600 have to start being reported tomorrow, not July 1st. I was thinking maybe next Wednesday, 3 days after the settlement. But no, tomorrow. It's too late. It's too late to get that. There are now officially guardrails around NIL deals. Ladies and gentlemen, that is big news. Big news. It's starting tomorrow. Woo! That is 1 hour from now. Protect the guardrails. The only way you can protect the guardrails is got to get codified by Congress. They're the only ones. Yeah, it was announced on Friday, but I didn't think it was going to happen this Friday. I mean, after we were done with the live show, I said, well, it ain't happening this Friday.
from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir? Thanks for calling.
I'm doing good. I just wanted to make sure you saw that Pete Nakos about an hour ago had also put up, maybe not quite an hour ago, a post basically saying that a lot of revenue sharing deals were going out like right that second.
Oh.
Because so there, if that report that you just shared is accurate, that makes it interesting to see what that really means that Pete Nakos did, because apparently a boatload of people, just like all these reporters' articles of what the whole revenue share means, had it already written, right? They just needed to add a paragraph at the top and the date.
Yes.
If Pete Nakos' report is right, there's probably a lot of schools getting their last things in before 12:01 a.m. or whatever that updated report it was. So I just wanted to make sure that you saw that in context of there's still an hour to cheat potentially.
Yeah. Now these rev share deals, are so Reuben Bain, big old defensive lineman, pass rushing defensive lineman, defensive end, Miami Hurricanes. He's probably getting a pretty good. Well, we don't know, because some of these big time players have such a big NIL deal because they got it done before the Deloitte thing. They might be getting a little less in rev share. So whatever. This is all going to be very different. None of this is going to be public too. That's another thing.
Of course.
So,
well, theoretically, right? That's the case.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
But let's just pretend that Reuben Bain had signed. I don't know what these budgets are going to look like. Let's say he signed let's just say he signed for $1 million rev share out of the 15. Right. Okay. I don't know if that's ridiculous. I don't know. But so now, essentially, in this world that we're living in right now, until this gets codified or gets shredded, this contract now probably, at least in the eyes of Miami and Reuben Bain, this really becomes official now, right?
Yeah, in theory, right?
In theory.
Depending upon what terms were put in and when, and whether it's
so he'll start getting paid. So I think, now you tell me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of this was agreements, memorandums, right? Like, I got you, you got me type of situation.
Correct.
But I don't think anyone was getting paid directly by the school unless there was a state law that said you could do it. I don't know. But
correct. There was all their collective or non-collective led third party direct NIL deals for any player, right? In theory. Yeah. That's what existed before. So I don't know. One, before I forget, but definitely want your take. God bless you and your hope for Congress. I have zero, just to be clear.
Well, I was at like 10%. I'm down to 2% because I saw some tape of Cruz and Booker yelling at each other.
Yeah, they're not.
So
they're not kumbaya. You know, the parties can't even get along within each other, let alone across the line. So put me out as I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I wish it would. Like, I'm not wishing doom. I just predict it.
Yeah.
Or expect it, I guess, is a better way.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things that I think are interesting now that we're here, like we're at this point, that people aren't thinking about. Yes, a lot of schools could theoretically get more competitive because the playing field is revenue share leveled, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
But a couple of things. The race for more water parks and slides goes back on again because if all things are equal, how cool is your place to hang out?
Yeah.
Those schools might invest in that again,
yes.
right, as a possibility. Because you can have a bunch of schools that are revenue capped but are not revenue limited.
Yes.
Right? Like Ohio State or whoever. I'm just using that because they're just such a giant brand, right?
Yeah.
But they get a ton of money coming in. They can only hit at 20.5. I think another thing people aren't paying attention to in the rev share is if you add more scholarships to fund the scholarship limits that you have. Up to like $2.5 million of that comes off the top of revenue share, right?
Yeah.
So you're not really at 20.5. If you fully fund X amount of scholarships, you're at really at 18.
Yeah.
That then goes into people. I think that the basketball part of life is where this gets really interesting for the bigger schools, right? Because all of those basketball only non-football playing schools like St. John's, just to use an example, this past year, or Gonzaga have that same revenue share cap, do really well in basketball, only need to fund X amount of players, and they don't have to split it amongst 20.5 million or 18 million or whatever that number is. So I think where things definitely get more competitive is probably even more so on the basketball side, because it won't be all things being equal if you're competing against somebody for a player where you also have to give some of your revenue share to an amazing women's softball team, right? If it's your Oklahoma or your football team. So I think that's where it'll be interesting, but I don't know that it's going to level things as much as people think, because they'll just move to other levers that when all things are equal, what will happen.
Yes.
And then the last thing I just had to get your take on is I'm really curious to see what happens with the NIL clearinghouse, right? Because an ad rate to get to 1 million people impressions in Dallas is different than the ad rate. And image and likeness is basically just advertising, right? For brands. That's what it is. Like, it's just a different form. It comes with a personal connection versus a random actor or just graphics. But the ad rates for 1 million people in a market, A to B, are very different, right?
Yeah.
And then let alone like what the state, like, are they going to even factor in the state taxes? So that's the thing I'm not sure. And maybe you have better insight or have read or articles that articulate what would happen to, and, you know, the same 4-star who's not, you know, one of the elite 11, isn't the 5-star 32 players in the country. What happens with them when they go to a school, and depending upon the market, like from an advertising percentage, like how does the clearinghouse look at those two differently, if they do at all?
I have no answers. And I only have speculation, and I'm speculating that that whatever this AI program, whatever this algorithm, whatever this computer program that Deloitte is going to be running, and it sounds like they built it around like NBA NIL deal, NBA players, NFL players, things like that.
Right.
I'm guessing there's going to be some part of this program where the zip code is going to be put in, right? Because, like you say, location is such a big factor in this. I mean, and of course, the company and exactly what it is, and boy, I don't know. And again, I don't know any. I know nothing, Rock and Rant. But my fear is, I don't have a fear that I know nothing right now. My fear is 4 months from now, I'm not going to know anything. In other words,
I think you're right.
I mean, it's bad enough that I'm going to be, I'm going to start out with my Greg the Gold predictions that I'm going to be 4-13 against the spread, right? That's going to be bad. It's going to be bad enough that the Gophers are sitting 2-2 after 4 games. That's going to be bad enough. What I really don't want to happen is I'm sitting here, Rock and Rant, and nothing is. I'm sorry, Rock and Rant. I get everyone needs their privacy, but I don't want you to have your privacy. I want to know, I want to know if deals are being batted down. I want to know the success rate of a submitted deals in the Deloitte. I want to know the sports commission. I want to know everything that's going on in the sports commission. I want to know if they're investigating Rock and Rant because he slipped a little bit of money in a McDonald's. I want to know. I want to know. And I'm afraid I'm not going to
Absolutely.
know.
Well, that's what happens when you have a settlement, right, where the judge, who's done a lot of these things, basically says, "Hey, I'm going to rule on the car, you stealing the car. I agree that you stole the car, but I don't know how to rule on the murder that came after." Because that's what she essentially did. I'm going to rule on this, but the antitrust stuff, I don't have enough information, so it doesn't matter. You might get sued later. Like, you might get arrested later for the murder. Like, that's what it feels like. We got like the punt, and the ball's still in play, but nobody scored because we have no idea what's going to happen next.
And I'm, we've got all these different state courts decisions on eligibility, right? And it's scattered, and the results are scattered all over the place. We've got a transfer portal in which there seems to be some consensus around, again, if this doesn't get codified, there's going to be lawsuits, because how can you set up a transfer portal without the representation of labor, student athletes? But there seems to be consensus around having one transfer portal, correct?
It seems like what everybody would like. Yeah, sure.
One transfer portal. I still don't quite get I don't quite get when this transfer portal should be, though. Because every time someone brings up a potential, like, this is when you should have it, in my brain, it doesn't quite work. But I don't know. I mean, it's only... I heard some people want it... you can have it after spring ball. Is that where we're thinking of? Or what are we thinking here? Before spring football?
I mean, you want it before spring football, right? Because you want to put the people on the field, and most of those guys are theoretically trying to play the next year, right?
Yeah.
However, it's also, then you get into the whole conflict between, all right, well, if you keep it where it is, you're impacting 12, potentially 16 teams who are going to be in the playoffs, right? That problem comes up against the deadline of you have to be enrolled into your new school by a date which also ranges over a course of 4 weeks. So the cleanest date thing is to do it after the spring, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have that conflict. That's the worst for your actual on-field thing, because then if you try to get a quarterback or whoever integrated, you have, 4 weeks of practice before your first game to do it. So, all of this is just dances around the fact of we need to keep treating them like students because we can't treat them like employees, and we don't want to do collective bargaining, so we're going to keep having to Frankenstein everything.
Yeah. Frankenstein's, and of course, as a fan, as a college football sicko, as you know, Rock and Rant, I'm very selfish, and I would love to see. The players have got to get paid on this. But I would love to see if that transfer portal can happen before spring football, and there are binding contracts, and only under extreme situations can you bolt out of your team roster and go play on another roster for the coming up season. But if we get that transfer portal done, completed before spring football, and if it's binding contracts, but if you want to leave, it's at least there's a buyout, whatever. Then we can get back to having spring football, right? Where not everybody's afraid that everyone's going to poach each other. We also can have the Minnesota Golden Gophers travel down to play Miami, right? In a little scrimmage. Have that on TV. Some of that money goes to labor. And we can get spring football, that juice is flowing, and then everyone can take their breaks, and then we get going back in August. I'm saying that as a selfish college football fan, Rock and Rant.
Yeah, look, I mean, that would be great. That would make way too much sense. So that means we probably won't get that.
Yeah.
Regardless if they try to do it ahead. So the bad news is there's probably going to be a bunch more lawsuits and nothing won't get settled, which will suck. The good news is you're going to not have a lack of topics to talk about for the next 2 years, regardless. So, but,
can you imagine? Again, I'm coming from this as a very selfish person. Okay, you can yell at me tomorrow. It's too late to yell at me tonight, Rock and Rant. But if at least some of this was public, I want this public. I want to know how much money in the Miami Hurricanes rev share, how much you're paying your field goal kicker. I want to know. I want to talk about it. When he clangs one off the post, I want to know how much your field goal kicker's making, and then I'm going to look at your backup kicker, and he might be having a $5,000 rev share contract.
I think we would all like to know this, as opposed to people putting out in the press that Carson Beck's making $37 bazillion because some agent told everybody that's what's happening, as opposed to what the reality of that is. Just like we would all like to know, what the actual stats and data that the playoff selection committee really uses that either dispels or confirms the conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Right? Transparency is always good. And sometimes it means privacy has to suffer to a degree, but it's not uncommon already in sports.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we're going to get that. But I appreciate that you went on tonight. I'm babbled on long enough. Let's get some other people.
All right.
But thanks for going on.
Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so very much.
Be good, Greg.
Rock and Rant, Mr. Miami Hurricane. Now, I don't know what this means. Judge Wilkin, Amanda Krisovich from Front Office Sports. Judge Wilkin has preserved the right for both current and future athletes to sue for damages based on the implementation of roster limits and the cap on revenue sharing. So, again, we're going to get lawsuits. Because there's going to be somebody that's going to go, well, why is Alabama at $20.5 million rev share? Why is there a cap? Should not be no cap. We as labor, we did not bargain for this cap. I am going to sue. We're going to get lawsuits. None of this is going to work. It's going to fall apart eventually if this does not get codified. So I guess it's easy. I mean, basically we're all pretending that this is going to work right now. Right? I mean, that's what we're doing. There's a lot of news. There's a lot of comments being, we got a statement from Silent Petiti. We got a statement from Silent Tony. A statement from Commissioner Petiti. We look forward to implementing this historic settlement designed to bring stability, integrity, and competitive balance to college athletics while increasing both scholarship and revenue opportunities for student athletes in all sports. Tony Petiti has spoken. Jim Phillips, athletic director, commissioner of the ACC. This is a significant moment for college athletics that will provide unparalleled opportunities for student athletes. We look forward to implementing this new system, which offers much needed transparency, structure to create a more sustainable model for the long-term future of college athletics.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan is on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling. I do appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. You bet.
So we got a lot of big stories percolating here in the last couple of days. So the story that you're talking about right now.
We got breaking news. Breaking news. Tristan 5, I apologize. You can have as much time as you want, but I have to say what I'm about to say. I apologize.
Oh, go right ahead. Yeah, it's all right.
College Sports Commission tonight is proud to announce Brian Seeley as its chief executive officer, a deeply experienced legal and operational leader with a distinguished career in professional sports and public service. Seeley will lead the commission as the new era begins in college sports. I'm not going to read that whole thing. But anyways, we got ourselves the commissioner. The CEO, I should say. I can't call him the commissioner. The CEO of the College Sports Commissioner, the enforcement arm in college sports. Go ahead, Tristan 5. Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate it. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Greg. Man, so now we've got this bit of news. All right, so first of all, Greg, it was just a few days ago that the Clemson and Florida State settlement with the ACC became official. Like, everyone signed on the dotted line, right?
Yes, sir.
And then, wasn't it earlier today that we found out that ESPN had sold some of the playoff games to TNT, right?
Yes, sir.
Isn't that a story?
Yep, we did that live show earlier today. Yes, sir.
That's right. I didn't get a chance to hear that one. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, so we're seeing like massive stories just rolling right off one after the other.
The planes are landing. Yes, sir.
The planes are landing. So I'm thinking now, Greg, that we are going to have. I think this is a lot of what was being waited upon, and we're going to see some realignment moves taking place probably in the next few months. Don't know who's going to go first. We've speculated, and I guess you've had, reason to believe it might be UNC, but honestly don't know. And once that starts to happen, I mean, we have to have at some point, we got to have a collective bargaining agreement here with the players, right? This is building up to that. I don't see how they can avoid it. And if it's going to be through the conferences, then does that mean that there's a possibility that the conferences might each have their own collective bargaining agreement with players?
When I did, when I was doing this collective bargaining live shows a couple years ago, that was my premise, that it was going to be by conference. So, but again, we have all these big breaking news, but unfortunately, none of this is about collective bargaining agreement. And boy, right now I have no hope for that. I'm at some point I'm still imagine it's going to happen. But hopefully it's not too late when it happens, because to be honest, if this thing goes pear-shaped, if Congress doesn't get on their butts and get codification, we got to go back into the courts, and the back pay is going to go from $2.8 billion to billions and billions, and a lot of people are going to get a lot of opportunities for student athletes are going to completely disappear if we can't make this work for the next 10 years. The collective bargaining world, that dream could happen 10 years from now, but this is basically a 10-year deal to pay back all that back pay and to see if this works.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. Every school signed on to this. If it doesn't work, the House lawyers are going to put everybody back into court. It's so it's going to be so risky. In other words, the schools, in essence, have already lost the battle. This is the punishment they're willing to take. And they're trying to create this governance that has some legitimacy. And the Congress has to step in. They have to step in, or we are in a lot of trouble. We're going to go down in flames one of two ways or both. One, it doesn't get codified and the lawsuits come in and there's going to be enough of them are going to be successful and this thing's going to go pear-shaped and we're all going to go back in the courts. The other way this thing could all go blow up is if schools just don't follow the rules and say, bring it on, sports commission. And that is why you're seeing these schools try to get everybody to sign another letter to say, this is our affiliation membership. We are signing this thing so we don't participate in any of these state lawsuits that are going to be coming at these governance body. But go ahead, sir. I've taken up enough of your time. Go ahead. You got enough. You got as much time as you want.
Comments are welcome because what I've been thinking about here as part of this conversation is we've seen laws come onto the books at the state level in several states. There was a law, I think, saying that I forget, it might have been Missouri, but there was a law saying that a penalty could not be enforced against a state university unless they actually violated the law, right? Some kind of law, either federal or state law. And, if you have all of these states that are establishing laws to protect or to help the state universities, the only way to make all that work together is to have some kind of superseding law at the federal level that sort of, I don't know if the word negate is correct, but, it would supersede the state laws. And I don't know how all this can work. I mean, it can't work, I suppose, unless Congress just comes up with some kind of solution.
Yep.
There's too many competing interests. You got federal, you got state laws. These are state institutions. The Supreme Court issuing rulings that affect all of this. And, it's just like, how does all this fit together? It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, really trying to piece it all together. And, this is not, like you're saying, this is not the solution to anything. It's just one of like 50 things that has to happen before we get to a solution.
Yep.
And so this is all very curious. It's all going to be very exciting. But yeah, I agree with you, Greg. At the end of the day, without something concrete from Congress, it's just going to continue to be chaos.
Yep.
So, but hey, this is exciting. I'm glad you came on tonight, and I appreciate what you're doing. And keep up the good work, Greg.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words. Beautiful call, Trisha. Excellent. We got to. We've said we read what Petiti said. Phillips said. We've got Greg Sankey here. The approval of the House Settlement Agreement represents a significant milestone for the meaningful support of our student athletes and a pivotal step toward establishing long-term sustainability for college sports, two of the Southeastern Conference top priorities. As the journey to modernize collegiate sports continues, we remain focused on identifying and implementing innovative opportunities for our student athletes across all sports while maintaining the core values that make college athletes uniquely meaningful. So far, all the statements are reading the same when it comes to implementation. Now we got to implement the ground rules, these enforcement rules, everything that is going on here through the House NCAA settlement. Now we got to get it all going. Let me see here. Brian Seeley, the College Sports Commission CEO. Most college programs, athletic departments, are going to distribute 90% to football and men's basketball programs, 10% for the other sports. Okay, we're going to go through an article real quick here. A new article. I didn't want to do that. I did not want to do that. A new article by Amanda Krisovich. She read the 76-page document. Nope, I can't do that. I can't read that. Okay, we're not going to do that. Okay, phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Your Mark also said something. Yeah, I had it marked, but now I can't find it. No disrespect to your Mark, I just don't see it anymore, what he said. Ross Dellinger, about an hour ago, he really went through all this. Most schools plan to use payback formula for the distribution. 75 to 85% of your rev share goes to your football program. 10 to 15% men's basketball program. 10-15% to the others. Title IX is not exempt. Revenue mostly shared by buy-in player NIL rights. Enforcement arm, cap management system, clearinghouse, NIL Go. We have pretty much covered everything, I think.
Call from
Edward the Auburn Tiger.
Edward the Auburn Tiger, thanks for calling, my friend. The floor is yours.
Mr. Greg, you are a hard-working man, sir. You are in the moment.
I appreciate it.
I just had a question for you. Now, I haven't been following this really strong, so if I've asked something that's already been answered, I apologize.
No problem.
Now, all of the existing NIL deals that players currently have,
Yep.
obviously, as of this House passing, is under the old model.
Yes. Yep.
Just
Yep.
say that.
Yep.
So everything has to be converted. Am I understanding that
No.
right?
No. I mean, no. No. If you got an NIL deal, you do not have to submit it to the Deloitte clearinghouse. You're all good to go. Whatever the number of years on the NIL, whatever that NIL deal, it isn't constrained by the Deloitte clearinghouse. But if Edward the Auburn Tiger commits to Auburn football, that tomorrow, that NIL, your any NIL deal that you can get through probably your in-house Auburn Tiger NIL collective, that's going to have to be, if it's over $600, that's going to have to be submitted to the Deloitte clearinghouse for approval. Yeah. But all deals previously, you're good to go.
Now, let me ask this. Now, all deals that the players are currently under are not being paid directly by the school.
True.
Is that
That's going to start happening supposedly tomorrow. I guess.
I guess so. What I'm saying is, if the new system is being paid directly by the school, and that's going to be in place tomorrow, well, does that mean all the old system will be done away with tomorrow?
Okay, no. Rev share and NIL are two separate buckets of money. The rev share is coming directly from your school. For the first time ever, you're getting paid directly from your university. And that money can only come out of a few different revenue streams that your athletic department gets. Media money, ticket sales, whatever. Out of that bucket of money that your athletic department gets, and it does not include donations and booster money. That is separate.
Okay.
You can take $20.5 million out of that budget and pay your student athletes.
Okay.
And that's a cap. So, you cannot go above that cap. You can go below it. And I would say Auburn will probably be spending $15 million on direct rev share money to the football players. That's one bucket. The other bucket is NIL, in which players have been getting paid. Some have been getting paid enormous amount of money. A lot of it's not really NIL, it's pay to play. Going forward, any NIL deal that you have over $600 has to go through a Deloitte clearinghouse to be approved or denied.
Okay. So if I'm a second-year player, my first year, I say I signed a 3-year contract, let's say $2 million a year.
If that's NIL, that will keep going. You are not getting paid rev share money. Nobody has been paid rev share money ever until tomorrow.
Yeah. So I'll be paid $2 million a year, plus I will get rev share money. Is what you're
Possibly. That depends between. That is a decision between your general manager, your coach, your play. Like, in other words, there's gonna be a variety of type of deals. Yeah. Some of these players are still gonna be very valuable on the NIL market. Okay? And you might be getting a whole lot of money, and the coach might say to that player, look, instead of giving you $800,000 in rev share, we might pay you $500,000 because you're making so much in NIL, and we want to spread this rev share around to make sure that we got players on the defensive line that can help you as you are a defense. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be some
Yeah.
negotiation back and forth. But yes, most players are going to get paid. Football players are going to have a rev share compensation and an NIL compensation. For most players, I think the rev share compensation is going to be higher.
Yeah.
But the top
So,
elite marketable college football players like a Cam Coleman, Auburn, they're probably going to be making more money on the NIL part of the ledger than rev share. That is my guess.
so man, that is absolutely amazing, Greg. Because if I'm, let's say I'm Auburn, and I'm trying to lock in my NIL guys 2-3 years out,
Yeah.
and with the understanding to them, we're giving you the money through NIL, so your rev share is going to be very, very limited. And now I have a whole bucket of money that I can use to actually broaden my portfolio when it comes to my inventory of players in all sports.
Yeah, but everybody has been doing that. Everybody was working up to this day. Going forward, I think we all can probably expect the universe of NIL money going to the student athletes is going to shrink, at least a little bit. It could shrink a lot. We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know how tight Deloitte is going to run this. But yeah, you are correct, sir.
That is amazing. So really, I mean, if you handle this the right way, I guess smartly for the university, I mean, the real teeth of this, outside of spending the $20.5 million on the inventory for players, you're really not going to be constrained with how many players you can have, because if you got it all locked up in the NIL before this began, and that's congruent while the rev share is going on, man, that's just a lot of opportunity for a lot of schools to have a tremendous inventory of players if they have
for the next couple of years. Eventually, that runs out.
Couple of years, obviously. Eventually it runs out. So that's pretty amazing. Like I said, I didn't understand, but thank you for explaining that to me. You made a lot of sense there.
Yeah. All righty, sir.
Thank you very much. You have a great night.
Appreciate it. You too, Edward. Beautiful call. Finely tuned. What kind of penalties could be imposed? None. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't know. I think
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. Anxiety, filling up every space, no privacy, and silently, it could build and build until you finally see, whoa, it's taking over, damn, no closure, moving closer.
I think the punishment part of this is gonna be we got the sports commission, we got the CEO named, all these conferences have been working on the sports commission, the structure of the sports commission. The punishment is going to be handed down swiftly according to reports. Everybody is on board. There's going to be an appeal process, but it ain't going to last forever. You're going to have to take your punishment. If you don't take your punishment, you're going to be expelled from college football. I don't know what's going to happen, but I have optimism about the punishment part of this, as long as all this gets codified. I smell a mutiny in the works. Go ahead. But guess what? Texas signed on to this. LSU signed on to this. BYU signed on to this. Utah, all your schools signed on to this. All of them. Bring on the lawsuits. Bring them on. I don't think anyone, bring on the lawsuits are going to happen like tomorrow, the next day. Bring them on. Because hopefully with this approval finally taking place and the lawsuits are coming, this gets codified by Congress. And for those who are wishing for lawsuits, who are wishing for a mutiny, who are wishing for all this to be destroyed and not to have it codified by Congress, I think you are missing the plot. Because if this House settlement cannot, if the schools that all signed on to it, and all of them signed on to it, every Power 4 conference school signed on to it, if this doesn't work, the lawyers of House are going to be able to rip it up. It's going to go back in the courts, along with the other two lawsuits that were folded into this one. And your school is not going to be paying just a part of the $2.8 billion. It's going to be paying a part of a $20 billion, $25 billion back pay. So, good luck for those who are wishing all this to go away. This is the new reality. How long until the first lawsuit? Let them come. Bring it on. And hopefully it just adds more fuel to Congress saying, okay, this is your antitrust exemption. It codifies everything that the House NCAA court case brought about. It might not speed up realignment at all. I'm wondering though. I'm wondering if it helps. I'm wondering if this was a big hurdle for private equity to finally enter into the college athletic space. Because why would a private equity firm even want to strike a deal with any conference if it didn't know if this House NCAA settlement was going to occur? This was the big plane that landed. This plane needed to land. And it did. Thank goodness. And congratulations to Texas Longhorns for winning the College Football World Series. Congratulations to Texas Tech Red Raiders for an incredible season. Women's softball, fantastic tournament. It was fun to watch. My 92-year-old mother watched it all. My sisters have been watching it with her, caretaking her. It's been a blast. So it's been fantastic. Again, if you're new to our show, please subscribe to our show. Open up those notifications. You got to subscribe and turn on those notifications. This is the second time we came on live tonight. The second time, because we had to. Because we cover breaking news. We cover everything in college football. So make sure you subscribe and open up those notifications. This House NCAA settlement has to be codified by Congress. If it's not, all bets are off, because the House is going to go back and take everybody back into court, and along with the other lawsuits that were folded into this. We've got ourselves the Sports Commission. We got ourselves the Deloitte supposedly is up and running tomorrow. That was Christy Dosh who reported that tonight. So this is the new world that we're living in until it gets absolutely shredded. But if it gets codified, and then these are going to be the rules for at least the next 10 years, we'll see what happens. Yeah, she enjoyed every part of that. She enjoyed every part. Thank you, Spangler. Appreciate it. I want to thank Opie for his incredible super chat. Holy smokes. Heartbreak 25, Sasha, and Finely Tune. Thank you guys so much for your donation. I want to thank the phone calls that came on in and all the comments. A big day in college sports. We had to come on here, breaking news. Judge Wilkin has approved the settlement. And by the way, she protects the current students and future student athletes. Current student athletes and future student athletes. She protects them. They have the ability to sue for damages when it comes to rev share cap and I think something else. I don't remember it. So again, this thing needs to be codified by Congress if this is going to work. Period. End of story. Hopefully it does. I know this is not perfect, but if this doesn't work, holy bleep on what is about to come at us next here in college sports, college football. So, again, congratulations to the Texas Longhorns and to the Texas Tech Red Raiders on their fantastic season. Thank you, Stormy Cyclone, for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity so very much. Thank you for the wonderful super chat once again. What is my Jim Marshall take? I watched Jim Marshall play for the Vikings all through my childhood. He started in 1961. I don't know what year. What year did he retire? 78, 79, 80. I don't remember. Jim Marshall, Carl Eller, Alan Page, the Purple People Eaters, Larson. The Vikings were a great football team that never won the Super Bowl. Jim Marshall should be in the Hall of Fame. He played 270 straight football games as a defensive lineman. Francis Tarkenton just said the other day, Jim Marshall never missed a practice. There were times, Carl Eller said, Carl Eller is still alive. Carl Eller said there were times in which nobody believed that Jim Marshall was going to make it to the game. Even though he was the toughest SOB in football. But then at the very last minute, he would show up, Vikings uniform, he'd go out there and play. He is known as the guy who scored. He ran the wrong way on a fumble. Picked up a fumble and ran the wrong way. Went through the Vikings end zone, threw the football in the air, and caused the Minnesota Vikings a safety. He was quite the guy, man. Jim Marshall, he flew out of airplanes. He was a risk taker. At a very old age, he was jumping out of airplanes. Jim Marshall, NFL legend. Hopefully someday they'll get him in the NFL Hall of Fame. That is where he was a dominant football player. It has, I don't know. I mean, it's crazy that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Someday he'll get there, and then his family and loved ones can celebrate. Jim Marshall, Minnesota Vikings, part of my childhood. That's all I know. A big part of my childhood. I just want to check a message here real quick. Hold on. Again, this was a plane, the big plane that landed. And now we're going to see if more planes land here anytime soon. Top 10 Viking of all time. Boy, that is close. That is close. That is very close. I don't know about top 10. Top 20, yes. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you so much for joining us on a second live show. Keep your head on a swivel. We're going to have live shows tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. No question about it. No question about it. We're going to be having live shows because more and more reports are going to be happening. I wish the results of this stuff would be made public, like things like these clearinghouse decisions and the rev share decisions among athletic departments, but I don't think any of that's going to be public. And that's too bad because that would give us a whole lot to chew on here for content for college football Peek Around the Corner. But we'll find out how all this works. Again, Congress has got to codify or we are in trouble. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.